Hello everyone and welcome to second part of presentation on controlled drug delivery system. In this part we are going to discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages of controlled drug delivery system and what are the ideal characteristics of drug required to be formulated as a controlled release dosage form. So first we'll see advantages of controlled release as compared to conventional dosage form. Already we have discussed controlled drug delivery system have improved patient convenience and compliance due to less frequent dosing administration. Means we are planning such a oral controlled drug delivery system which is to be given only once in a day. Then second advantage is reduction in fluctuation in the steady state plasma concentration, as well as therefore better control over the disease condition. Then another advantage is increased safety of margin, because if we take example of a high potency drugs, so in case of conventional drug delivery system, due to presence of peaks and valleys, so when the drug release is very fast. So highest concentration means Cmax, that is highest plasma drug concentration, that may reach into the toxic level. So if that reaches into toxic level, it may cause the safety issues. So that's why in control release we are planning to maintain the plasma drug concentration within the therapeutic window. So there is increase in the safety margin. Then another advantage is maximum utilization of drug. So generally what we are doing, say for example conventional dose of any drug is 200 mg thrice daily. Means in a day we have to give 600 milligram of drug. But when we are designing controlled drug delivery system and we are trying to maintain in therapeutic range, so at that time we require a less dose, maybe 550 mg or maybe 500 mg. So there is a maximum utilization of drug. Then another advantage is reduction in the healthcare cost. So generally as we are improving the therapy, means the plasma concentration we are maintaining in the therapeutic range throughout the period of therapy, so definitely there will be quick cure of any disease. So that's why shorter treatment period is there. So ultimately we are reducing the healthcare cost. Another advantage is less frequency of dosing, as we have already discussed. So now disadvantages. So as there are advantages, there are few disadvantages of also sustained or controlled drug delivery system. So first disadvantage is decreased systemic availability, or we can say decreased bioavailability of drug in comparison with the immediate release. So how? There are so many reasons which will cause the decrease in systemic availability. First reason is incomplete release. Say for example, to slow down the release we are adding various polymers, poorly soluble polymers. So these polymer will retard the release. And as we know that for an oral controlled drug delivery system, the residence time of any dosage form in the GIT is in between 9 to 12 hours. So if drug is not releasing in 12 hours, means say for example after 12 hours drug release from our tablet is only 70%. So remaining 30% it is waste. So that is incomplete release. So unless and until drug is released, it will not be absorbed, means less systemic availability. Second cause for less systemic availability is increased first pass metabolism. Now we know that first pass metabolism means what? When we are administering drug by oral route, the drug will be absorbed. First it will go to liver and then it goes to the systemic circulation. Say for example, if we are giving a conventional dosage form tablet fast, or so in conventional dosage form tablet will disintegrate quickly, and as the drug, most of the drug are absorbed by passive mechanism, absorption will be also fast. But as we know that metabolism in liver is a capacity limited process. Now, what do you mean by capacity limited? Already we have studied in biopharmaceutics, that is, the number of enzymes present in liver are limited. Say for example, first pass effect metabolism of any drug is 50%. Means if 100 milligram of drug is absorbed, our liver will metabolize 50 mg and 50 mg will reach to the systemic circulation. But as we know that the number of enzymes are present in liver are limited. So if 500 mg tablet of any drug in conventional form if you are giving, so 500 mg is releasing and suppose 500 mg is absorbed, and that much extra quantity if we are exposing to the liver, what will happen? All the enzymes get saturated and the metabolism rate will be reduced. Means instead of 50% first pass effect metabolism, only 20 to 30% drug will metabolize and remaining drug will reach to the systemic circulation. This is the case in conventional drug delivery system or immediate drug delivery system. So bioavailability is higher. In contrast to this, when we are giving same drug in controlled release drug or dosage form, what will happen? Slowly drug is releasing and slowly drug is reaching to the liver after absorption. So liver enzymes, they will not get saturated and they will metabolize more quantity of drug. So if more quantity of drug is metabolized in pre-systemic metabolism, then definitely less drug is reaching to the systemic circulation, means less bioavailability. Another reason for less systemic availability is increased instability. Now we know that the gastric condition is acidic. Many drugs are unstable in acidic condition. In sometimes in our GIT there are variety of enzymes, microorganisms are present. They also may cause the instability of drug. So in conventional drug delivery system, drug is remaining in GIT for less time, say for 2 to 3 hours or maybe 4 hours. But in sustained drug delivery or controlled drug delivery, drug is remaining for 9 to 12 hours, maybe 10 or 12 hours. So if we are exposing drug to enzymes or acidic condition for longer period, definitely the stability of drug will be less, means drug will get degraded before absorption. So if it is degraded before absorption, ultimately there will be decrease in the systemic availability of drug. Another reason for decreased systemic availability is insufficient residence time for complete release. Means what? If we are planning a sustained release for 12 hours due to some conditions or disease condition, if peristaltic movements are fast, so if drug is remaining in GIT for only 9 hours, so what will happen? We are planning the release up to 12 hours, means in 9 hours hardly 70 or 60% drug will release. So only 60-70% drug is released. So definitely 90% bioavailability is not possible. So again decrease in the bioavailability of drug. Another reason for decreased bioavailability is site specific absorption. Now what do you mean by site specific absorption? Now we know that most of the drugs are absorbed by passive mechanism, but some drugs they are absorbed by the carrier mediated transport. So for the absorption of such drugs they require carriers, and these carriers are not available throughout the length of GIT, means stomach, small intestine and large intestine. Suppose for a X drug, these carriers are available in upper part of small intestine, say for example duodenum. So if carriers are available in duodenum, so how much time our tablet will require to reach the duodenum? Hardly 2 hours in stomach and 2 hours in duodenum. Means after 4 hours our tablet is going into the distal part of intestine or GIT. So carriers are present only up to the duodenum. Means whatever the drug released after duodenum, it will not be absorbed. So this duodenum means it is also called as a absorption window for that particular drug. Means from that particular window, particular region of GIT, drug will be only absorbed because of presence of carriers for that particular drug. So this is also one of the reason for decreased systemic availability. Then again, pH dependent solubility. As we know that the pH of GIT varies from 1 to maybe 7.5 or maybe up to 8. So some drugs are having solubility or ionization at different pH. So there, if drug is remaining in unionized form, absorption will be fast. If it goes for ionization, then definitely its permeability will be reduced. So these are the few reasons why in sustained or controlled drug delivery system the systemic availability of drug is decreased. So this is the main disadvantage. Another disadvantage is poor in vitro in vivo correlation. Means as in conventional we are correlating in vivo study with the in vitro dissolution. So this correlation is poor in case of sustained or controlled release. Another disadvantage and most dangerous disadvantage is possibility of dose dumping. So say for example, if you are, so first we will see what do you mean by dose dumping. Dose dumping means accidental sudden release of medicament from the dosage form is called as dose dumping. So accidental sudden release means what? Say for example, for controlled release we are coating the tablet with a poorly soluble polymers. So if coating is there, okay, coating will retard the release or it will slow down the release. But accidentally suppose patient is breaking the tablet and after that he is swallowing. So what will happen? The coating is broken. So that tablet is no more a controlled release. And as we know that the dose of control release tablet is quite higher as compared to conventional tablet, because 2 or 3 doses we are mixing in a single dosage form. So this accidental sudden release, what will it cause? It will cause the plasma drug concentration to go into the toxic level. So if it is going into toxic level, definitely it is harmful. So this is also another disadvantage of controlled release drug delivery system. Another disadvantage is retrieval of drug is difficult in case of toxicity, poisoning or hypersensitivity reaction. Say for example, many patients have allergic reaction to particular antibiotics. So if that antibiotic is given by conventional, so what will happen in stomach? When it is get dissolved, some amount of drug is absorbed, it will show hypersensitivity reaction if it is there. So if allergic reaction is there, what we can do? We can give the emetics and that drug can be omitted out of the stomach. But in contrast to this, if controlled drug delivery system we are giving same drug, means in stomach the release will be very minimal. So the release will be in small intestine, and as the tablet reaches into small intestine, the expulsion of tablet from the small intestine is quite difficult. So it is very difficult to remove the dosage form in case of toxicity or maybe allergic reactions. So this is also another disadvantage. Another disadvantage is the physician has less flexibility in adjusting dosage regimen. Say for example, we know that the tablet, paracetamol tablet, it is available in 500 mg, 650 mg or 250 mg. But as according to the weight and age of patient, suppose the physician want to give him a 350 mg of paracetamol. So it is quite possible in case of conventional, because the physician can ask for breaking the tablet into 2 parts or 3 parts and then consume it. But in controlled release we cannot break the tablet. If it is coated tablet, then definitely after breaking the tablet it will be no more a controlled release. So flexibility in adjusting dosage regimen is less in case of sustained release drug delivery system. Again, another disadvantage is cost. So as the equipment and process required in the design or in the formulation or manufacturing of controlled drug delivery system, they are costly. So definitely cost of controlled release products will be higher as compared to conventional products. The next point is characteristics of drug required to be formulated as a controlled release dosage form. Means what properties our drug should have to be a good candidate for controlled release drug delivery system. So first point is drug should exhibit neither very fast absorption nor excretion. Means what? Say for example, if our drug is very fastly absorbed, what will happen? The plasma drug concentration will increase very fast. And as we know that the elimination rate of drug, it follows first order kinetics. Means if higher is the concentration of drug in the plasma, more will be the elimination rate. If lower is the concentration, the elimination rate will be also lower. So if drug is absorbed very quickly, so definitely very quickly it will be eliminated from the body. So half-life of drug get shortened. So that's why the absorption of drug should not be very fast. And sometimes the absorption of drug may be slower. So if, as we have discussed in the design of sustained release or controlled release dosage form, the rate limiting step should be drug release, not the drug absorption. So what is the assumption? As soon as our drug releases from our dosage form, immediately it should be absorbed. So absorption rate should not be too slow. Means absorption of drug should be optimum. Means absorption of drug should be faster than the release rate. That is the requirement. Another characteristic required it is the drug should be uniformly absorbed throughout the length of GIT. Just now we have discussed the concept of absorption window or site specific absorption. So if drug is having suppose absorption window in duodenum, then if drug is releasing in distal part of intestine, then it is of no use. So that's why the drug should not have absorption window. It should be absorbed throughout the length, means from stomach to the colon. So this is also another requirement for the drug. Another requirement is the drug should have relatively small doses. Now in conventional drug delivery system, we are trying to release the content as quickly as possible. But in sustained release, we are trying to slow down the release. So to slow down the release, we have to add extra excipients like polymers. So as we are adding these polymers for slow release or sustained release, definitely the weight of dosage form will increase. Say for example tablet, if the dose of drug is 1 gram or suppose 700 milligram. So to sustain that 700 milligram of drug, we require suppose 700 milligram of polymer. Also we require another excipients like glidant, binder, etc. So as we are adding all these ingredients, the total weight of tablet will be very high. If the tablet weight is suppose nearly 2 gram, so definitely that much large tablet will be difficult to swallow intact. So that's why the dose of drug should be relatively small. Now the drug properties relevant to the controlled release. So the design of sustained release or controlled release drug delivery system is subject to several variables, and these all variables are interrelated. So broadly they are classified into physicochemical properties and biological properties. One by we will see. So biological factors which are to be considered, that is absorption of drug, distribution, metabolism, biological half-life and margin of safety. Physiological factors which should be considered, that are dose size, partition coefficient and molecular weight, aqueous solubility, drug stability, protein binding and pKa of drug. So we will discuss one by one. First biological factor is absorption. So how should be the absorption rate? So just now we have discussed absorption rate should not be too low or too fast. So how should be the absorption rate? The absorption rate should be faster than the release rate. That is the ideal requirement. So as we have discussed, the rate limiting step in the drug delivery from a sustained release system is its release from the dosage form rather than the absorption. So and rapid rate of absorption of drug relative to its release is essential if the system is to be successful. Then next biological factor is distribution. Now how should be the distribution of drug? Say we know that some drugs are distributed extensively throughout the body, some are less distributed. So generally distribution of drug we are studying in terms of apparent volume of distribution, that is VD. So what do you mean by VD? So when we are saying that the drug is more distributed, if apparent volume of distribution of drug is more, means drug is more distributed. Means what? The plasma drug concentration of drug is less and the concentration of drug in tissue is high. It can be denoted by T to P ratio. So T to P means the ratio of drug present in tissue to plasma. So if T to P ratio, that is tissue to plasma ratio is low, means apparent volume of distribution is low, means drug is more concentrated into the central compartment, that is blood. And if apparent volume of distribution is high, means higher is the T to P ratio. Means what? The drug is more distributed in the tissue, means peripheral compartment, and the concentration of drug in central compartment, that is blood, is less. Now what the relation this VD or apparent volume of distribution have with the half-life of drug? In first case, if we see the VD is low, means apparent volume of distribution is low. Low means what? The more concentration of drug is present in blood, that is central compartment. And as we know that elimination of drug, whether it is by metabolism or excretion, elimination of drug occurs from the central compartment. Means what? If VD is low, means drug is more concentrated into the blood, and if it is more concentrated into the blood, the elimination rate will be higher, and if elimination rate is higher, definitely half-life will be lower. In contrast to this, if high is the VD, means volume of distribution is high, means drug is more present in peripheral compartment, tissue compartment. So drug is more present in tissue compartment, means in blood drug presence is low, so definitely elimination rate will be slower. So elimination rate is slower, means half-life will be longer. Means what? If the drug has very high distribution, very high volume of distribution, apparent volume of distribution, means drug is remaining in body for sufficiently long time, so no need to give the, or no need to convert that drug into controlled release dosage form. For example, cetirizine. Now we know what is the dose of cetirizine. Adult daily dose of cetirizine is 10 mg. So once a daily, 10 mg once a daily, means what? If 10 mg drug we are giving, it is remaining in our body for nearly 24 hours. Means what? Its distribution is very high, so its half-life is also very long. So conventional dose also only once a day we have to give, means no need to convert into controlled release drug delivery system. In contrast to this, suppose very low volume of distribution, means drug is remaining more concentrated in the blood, higher will be the rate of elimination. So higher will be the rate of elimination, means half-life will be shorter. Say for example, half life of drug is 90 minutes. So if half life is 90 minutes, as we have seen in doses regimen means what dose we have to give and how frequently we have to give. In doses regimen we have studied that the dosing frequency is nearly equal to the half life of drug. So if half life of drug is 90 minutes, means after every 90 minutes we have to give the second dose, second conventional dose of that drug to maintain the steady state plasma concentration. So if dose of drug is 100 mg, suppose once dose, and after every 90 minutes we have to give 100 mg, means daily dose will be more than 2 grams. So that much dose to convert into a single tablet, so it is quite difficult. Again add to it polymers which are required for the slow release. So the tablets is not practically possible to compress and to be swallowed by the patient. So this is the effect, or what we can say, property of distribution required, biological factor, that is distribution required. So what conclusion we can come here? The distribution of drug should be optimum, not too high, not too low. So if distribution is too high, inherently drug is slowly acting, remaining in body for long time, no need to convert into control release. And if apparent volume of distribution is very less, means the dose of drug will be definitely very high and it will be quite difficult to convert into a dosage form. The next parameter is metabolism. Now we know that some of the drugs are upon their chronic administration, they are capable of either inducing or inhibiting the enzyme synthesis. So such drugs which are inducing the enzyme synthesis or inhibiting the enzyme synthesis, such drugs are poor candidate for controlled drug delivery system. Another factor in metabolism is that if there is a variable blood level of drug through a first pass effect metabolism, then this will also make preparation of sustained release product very difficult. Means whatever the first pass effect metabolism of drug is there, it must be uniform. So accordingly we can design into a sustained or controlled release drug delivery system. Then biological half-life. Actually see, biological half-life is related with the metabolism, related with the excretion, absorption as well as distribution. So as earlier we have discussed, all these factors are interrelated with each other. Means what? Now how should be the biological half-life? The biological half-life of drug should not be too short or it should not be too large. Say for example, if biological half-life of drug is short, less than 2 hours, what will happen? The dosing frequency will be 2 hours. So dosing frequency is more, means more dose we require. So it will be difficult to compress into a single dosage form. So that's why biological half-life should not be too less. And if the biological half-life of drug is suppose 8 hours or more than 5 hours, so more than 8 hours means what? Drug is remaining in body for sufficiently long time. So if drug is remaining body inherently sufficiently for long time, then what is the need to convert into a control release? Inherently it is a slow action or sustained action drug. So that's why ideally the biological half-life of drug to be in between 2 to 5 years, not less than 2 hours, not more than 5 years. So such drugs having biological half-life in between 2 to 5 hours are ideal candidates for controlled drug delivery system. Then next it is margin of safety. Now in other words we can call it as therapeutic index. If larger is the therapeutic index of drug, then definitely more safer is the drug. Means what? As we know, the chances of dose dumping may occur in controlled release dosage form. So if therapeutic window is sufficiently broad, means if more drug is releasing, then also it will remain within the therapeutic window, it will not reach to the toxic level. So that's why such drugs which are having higher or larger therapeutic index, such drugs are good candidate for controlled release drug delivery system. Then physiological factors. So first physiological factor is dose size. Again, in general, the single dose of drug in between 0.5 to 1 gram is considered for conventional doses. But for controlled release doses form, the dose size should not be more than 500 mg. So if dose size is more than 500 mg, already we have discussed with example, if dose of drug is 700 mg, to sustain it we require to add 5 to 700 mg of polymer, means 1.4 gram total weight, again another excipient, so total weight of tablet may go beyond 2 grams. So if it is 2 gram is the weight of tablet, it will be very difficult to swallow. So that's why dose of drug should be small. So if small dose drug is there, means it is a good candidate for controlled release drug delivery system. Next parameter is partition coefficient and molecular size. Now we know the effect of partition coefficient and molecular size on drug permeation. As we know that the release rate should be rate limiting step, not the absorption. So drug absorption should be fast. Now what do you mean by partition coefficient? So partition coefficient nothing but a fraction of drug in oil phase to that of aqueous phase. So if partition coefficient of drug is high, means it is more lipophilic in nature, and if partition coefficient is low, means the drug is more what we can say hydrophilic in nature. So more hydrophilic, so water solubility will be less, water solubility will be higher. So to be permeated or absorbed quickly, the partition coefficient should be sufficiently high. Then molecular size. Now we know that the drug must have some good diffusivity through the membrane, because after administration of drug has to pass several membranes, means through absorption also, and capillary membrane, blood brain barrier, so many membranes our drug has to pass. So drug must have good diffusivity. So to have a good diffusivity, molecular size plays a vital role. If molecular size or molecular weight of drug is less than 500 dalton, means it is more diffusible through the biological membranes. So ideally, how should be partition coefficient and molecular size? The partition coefficient should be sufficiently high for the passive absorption, and molecular size should be sufficiently low for good diffusivity of drug through the biological membranes. The next physiological parameter is aqueous solubility. Now as we know that the drug should be dissolved to get absorbed, means unless and until drug is dissolved into the GI fluid, it cannot be absorbed. Means along with the good lipophilicity, our drug must have good aqueous solubility also. And aqueous solubility of drug has a relation with pKa, that is dissociation constant. Now ionization of drug occurs, as we have studied in biopharmaceutics, that is pH partition hypothesis. So what is pH partition hypothesis? So if good or what we can say required combination of pH and pK is there, then it will decide whether the drug will ionize or it will remain in unionized form. If drug remains in unionized form, then its absorption will be very easy by passive diffusion, and if drug get ionized, means solubility will be more but absorption through passive diffusion will be less. So drug to be get absorbed by passive mechanism or to be absorbed through the membrane, it must have sufficient aqueous solubility and pH and pKa combination. Then next it is drug stability. Now we know that the when we are compressing a drug into a controlled release drug delivery system, the drug has to pass through the variety of uh, internal or GI environment, means from acidic condition to the slightly basic condition of colon, as well as the drug will be exposed to various enzymes. So ideally what, our drug should be stable throughout the length of GIT. So if our drug is suppose unstable in the stomach, so what we can do, we can give the enteric coating, means we can prevent the dissolution of drug in stomach, and we can prevent the drug from the degradation in the stomach. Or sometimes some drugs are maybe unstable in the small intestine, and if the drug are unstable in the small intestine, definitely the systemic availability of drug will be less. So how should be the ideal drug? So ideal drug must be stable throughout the length of GIT. And such drugs are good candidate for controlled release drug delivery system. Then next it is protein binding. Now we know that what do you mean by protein binding, means drug binding to the plasma proteins. So drug protein binding, it act as a reservoir or depot for drug producing a prolonged release profile. Means what? As we know that the free drug is only pharmacokinetically as well as pharmacodynamically active. Means those drug or those portion of drug which is which is bound to the proteins, it is pharmacokinetically and pharmacodynamically inactive. So pharmacokinetically inactive means that drug cannot be distributed, cannot be metabolized, cannot be excreted. Only free drug will be distributed, metabolized and excreted. So if the protein binding of drug is very high, say for example protein binding is 90%, means only 10% free drug is available for distribution, metabolism and excretion. Means more amount of drug, 90% of drug is stored as a reservoir. Means what, the definitely that when the 10 mg of drug, 10% of drug is utilized again, and we, as we know that protein binding is reversible process, again 10% of drug will get detached from the bound protein, and again it will be distributed and metabolized, so and so on. So if higher is the protein binding of drug, definitely drug will remain in body for longer time, means the drug will have longer biological half life. So such drugs which are extensively bind to plasma protein having higher half life does not need to convert into a controlled release drug delivery system. In opposite to that, those drugs which are having very less protein binding, means what, more amount of drug is free, and if more amount of drug is free means more amount of drug is available for the metabolism as well as excretion. So ultimately biological half life will be less. So this is the effect of protein binding. So ideally the drug should not be extensively, means too high bound to the plasma proteins and too less binding to the plasma proteins. Then pKa, that is dissociation constant. Just now we have discussed while discussing the solubility. So as we know that the relationship between pKa of compound and absorptive environment, presenting drug in an unchanged form is advantageous for drug permeation. Means what, if drug is remain in unionized form, then definitely it will be more lipophilic and it will be more permeable through the membrane. And in opposite to that, if drug is in unionized form, means its solubility will be less. So what should be the ideal pKa value? So the pKa range for acidic drug whose ionization is pH sensitive is around 3 to 7.5, and pKa range for basic drug whose ionization is pH sensitive should be around 7 to 11, are ideal for optimum positive absorption of drugs. So these are the various parameters, properties that should be considered while designing or while selecting a proper candidate for controlled release drug delivery system. So in this presentation, we have studied what are the advantages of controlled drug delivery system, what are the disadvantages of controlled drug delivery system, what are the ideal characteristics of drug required to be formulated as a drug delivery system, and what are the various factors of drug which are to be considered while designing. That factors are biological factors and physiological factors. Hope you have understood. So thank you very much. Happy learning.